In this week's Hello Dave, we're going to be talking about Phase 4 of the Odyssey Alpha. We're going to be talking about the 9 new engineers that's going to be added into Elite. And finally, we're going to talk about live streams. Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Hello Dave. We're down with Astronomy. Last week we got the Phase 4 of the Odyssey Alpha. This is where we got access to our full commanders. All our ships were moved over, not fleet carriers, but everything else should have moved over. Materials, system unlocks, all that stuff. We were still limited to only the 50 light year bubble, which I personally think is because Frontier don't want us to go out and spoil too much. Quite conveniently, there are no engineers in range of that bubble. There's also no guardian structures. There's no Thargoid site, all that stuff. So I think it's because Frontier don't want this stuff to come out just yet. They want this to be something we're going to discover when Odyssey is fully released. The launch went relatively well, I think. There was a few hiccups, and they did add a few things down the line, like they added an additional fleet carrier vendor, so people actually go and buy their fleet carriers. I got one myself, and it doesn't seem to be much new on the fleet carriers themselves. They seem to be pretty much the same as they were before. In one of Frontier's live streams last week, they also clarified a lot of the process that's been going through on their end doing this alpha test. And also to kind of put people's minds at ease with the number of things that may still be broken here and there. And so the way that they have done this alpha is they said before the first phase started, they wrote or they took a copy of the main branch of code. So when you do software development, you do it in branches. So if I want to add a feature, I create a copy of the code, I add that feature and I merge it back into the main branch. And what they did is they just took a branch, took a copy of it, and that's the copy we've been playing on. But while we've been playing the alpha, they of course advanced the main branch, and they may not have taken all box fixes and pulled over to the alpha branch, simply because, well, if it's not too game breaking, there's no need to be pushing out updates on the alpha branch, but they might just fix it there. There's also got a lot of work into the atmospheric model, all the optimizations, they haven't pushed that over yet, so there's a lot of that coming. So they just said that basically the version of Odyssey that we are playing now is essentially where they were, a month ago. We're pretty much gonna get, when Odyssey comes out, a month and a half worth developing from the 100-man team they have on it right now. So there's plenty of room here, plenty of work hours put into the branch that we haven't seen yet. And there's also been stuff in it that Frontier has purposely withheld. They don't want to show us yet. In the same livestream, Frontier also talked about the 9 new engineers. Now, we know a little bit about the engineers because even though we were only supposed to be flying within the 50 light year bubble, we were actually able to go outside it in the Odyssey Alpha Phase 4. And we were that because the way Frontier has restricted it is they just permit locked everything else. But that meant if you had permits to system outside that 50 light year bubble the Alpha Phase was supposed to take effect in, well, you had access to that system and you could jump there if you had enough jump range. You could jump out of the bubble. And that gave us access to a few engineering systems. And we could go down and have a look at it. And one interesting thing is when you head down to those, you would see not there was a concourse as in all the other stations, but there was basically like a little loading area where the engineer had a little office out the side. There's been a lot of critique around that, where they're why is there a clone of the engineer at every landing pad and stuff like that. And you really have to remember, as we talked about, this is first of all a month-old branch of the code, and this is stuff that we weren't supposed to see yet. I don't think we were supposed to be able to go in and watch this, so this might very well be a placeholder thing where they're just okay, we need a test to just test these engineers, so we're just going to build a little outhouse to them there and plop them in there, and then we can just quickly go and do some testing on their own, stuff like that. So it might very well be that this is just not even alpha ready in the branch of the code we're seeing. I'm pretty sure the main branch is going to be very different. It's going to be interesting to see. But there's going to be 9 new engineers. Exactly how they're going to be sliced and diced and what they give access to the different engineers, we don't know yet. My personal guess, and this is just my guess, I have nothing to back this up at all, this is just my guess, is we're going to see 2 new engineers in Cologne here, and then probably 7 new in the bubble. We could kind of guess how they would be split up, because if we look at how engineers are divided today, you kind of have engineers focusing on a class of modules, so you have Payload does thrusters and Farshare does frameshift drives, and they have all the different engineering modifications for that module available. Assuming Frontier is going to slice it in the same manner here. I expect we're going to see probably 1 engineer per suit, so we probably can't engineer the flight suit. So that means we're going to see 3 engineers that's covering the 3 different types of suits, leaving 4 engineers for different types of weapons. We of course have 2 different weapon manufacturers in the game right now. Then they could add extras in for the other types of weapons as well. But they have told us a little bit about some of the new engineer effects we can put on weapons, for instance. And it's not just going to be like a raw stat boost. I'm pretty sure those will be there as well. It's just going to give it more damage. But there's also going to be stuff that's going to like basically like a silencer for them, where there's going to be a zero atmosphere and a atmospheric type of those. So you would have to make 2 versions of the weapon if you want to have them in both situations and take the appropriate weapon with you. So if you want to do like a stealth build, you can do that. There's going to be stuff like auto reloaders. So when you like stow your gun, it automatically reloads when it's on your backpack. Those kind of things. So there are things that's going to add new functionality to it and not just give it a stat boost. Finally, I want to talk about live streams. I'm probably going to be sticking to the main server. I know I haven't done that many live streams for the last parts of these last phases of this alpha test. It's mainly because a lot of the testing I've been doing has been a little... I don't think it's been that interesting for a live stream, or it's been one of those where I really needed to like either just type stuff into a spreadsheet or stuff like that. So I don't necessarily think it's been the most interesting content to live stream. I have done some alpha live streams. We tried out last week to go and see we could find ourselves a fleet carrier. That was before they added the fleet carrier vendor. So at first you couldn't buy a fleet carrier. I tried to find a way to do it. And we learned some things about the way that these unlock systems worked in the alpha test and why we were supposed to go outside. And we took a look at the engineers and that kind of stuff. That was pretty fun, I think. But a lot of the stuff has been like, look at something on the alpha server, log out over to the main server, then look at that for like 20 seconds, then log back to the others, and like sit and jump back between the 2 servers all the time. And some of you might find it interesting, but for me, it's also one of those where I'm going to be so focused on what I'm doing that I'm not going to be able to interact too much with you. So it's not the best live streaming content. So for the stream tomorrow, I have a few things I want to do. I want to head out to Robigo, at least just briefly, just to do a few runs out there, because there's been a few changes since last time I was out there, and I've actually taken my passenger ship back into the bubble to kind of refit it for that. Might do a video on it, hopefully before Odyssey, fingers crossed, depending on how much time I get. But I want to go out, just give it a few runs out there, also collect some engineering materials would be nice, and then I might head back in towards the bubble to do some other stuff in there, but we'll see what happens. But I think it'll be something along those lines. But all that is going to be tomorrow, and it's going to be at 7 o'clock in-game time, and it's going to be live streamed on YouTube and on Twitch as well. Thanks for watching, remember to subscribe to the channel, and until next time, I will see you guys in space.